I'm Michael Kaiser.
And I'm John Wilson.
And welcome to another episode of Make Ours Marvel.
Dun dun dun. This is episode 9 of the show, continuing our walk through our journey of looking at all of the original Marvel comics from their original releases. And we are in September of 1962. We've already done a little bit here, I believe, last episode. And we're going to continue on with the Incredible Hulk number 4. Which has two stories in it.
2 more to go.
After this one, we'll only have 2 Hulks left.
So yeah, you mentioned 2 stories. That makes me want to ask you a question here, because we have been, so far, taking turns summarizing these books.
Oh.
You take a turn, I take a turn, you take a turn. But those have all been essentially single stories with multiple parts.
Mm-hmm.
This one is actually 2 stories.
We could
so how do you want to handle that?
2 people. That will set a precedent, though, that whenever we get to those issues of Journey into Mystery that have the Tales of Asgard in the back, then it's just going to be like one person gets a 4 or 5 issue recap, or 4 or 5 page recap. Okay,
so I vote that one person handles the book anyway.
Okay, maybe if we get to an annual where there's like things are like
right,
and there are multiple stories, maybe we can do that. But for now, maybe 1 person per book,
and that person would be you.
Oh wait, what did I sign up for?
That's why I voted that way. Anyway.
I feel like I've been tricked.
Hey, it was your idea. I'm just going with it.
Okay, so September 4th, 1962, the first week of September, we have The Incredible Hulk number 4. And there are 2 stories in this issue. Oh gosh, it's been a while since I've read this one. Okay, so The Monster and the Machine has... It's called The Monster and the Machine because basically the Hulk figures out the David Banner origin scene from the 1970s TV show. That he can sit himself in a machine with a laser in it, a gamma laser, and he can shoot himself into being the Hulk or not the Hulk. Now, that's not where the story starts, though. The story starts with Ross is trying some sort of ice missile thing.
Yep.
Because the last issue, Incredible Hulk number 3, they found out the Hulk can fly now. And we talked about how is it leaping or is it flying? And they may call it leaping, but it's pretty much flying.
Right.
And so they shoot a stupid Hulk doll into the air.
It costs billions of dollars, man.
And they shoot their ice missile at the doll and it freezes the doll and the doll lands with a big old iceberg ka-thunk. They're like, yeah, just like the real Hulk, we're going to do that to him. Yeah.
Yep.
And let's see, this is also picking up on the plot thread of Rick being able to control the Hulk. And he loses control of him when he sleeps. They don't really talk about what they've been doing about that since that started. They go back to their cave lair, and they've just built this thing that you can use to shoot gamma rays at you, and they use it to turn him back into Bruce. And Bruce is tired. He's been the Hulk for a while, and now he's back to being Bruce. He's so tired, Mike. He's so tired that he has to get pushed around in a wheelchair.
Yes.
And he's like, you know what? I've only been recovering my energy for like 5 minutes, but man, I don't want to live my life as a tired wheelchair boy for the rest of my life. I miss being strong like the Hulk. Man, I wonder if I could be the Hulk again, but still be Bruce Banner. So he fiddles with the machine, and they make this cool little platform for him to stand on, where like he can control the machine with some toe buttons. And with his little footy controls, he can control the machine, and he zaps himself back into the Hulk. And sure enough, the Hulk's super smart, has Bruce Banner's intelligence, and no longer wants to kill Rick. Because that's one thing we've seen is that the Hulk always wants to kill Rick. Now, I don't really remember what the plot is after this. Do they go in a plane, or is that another story?
That's the second story.
Okay, so...
I'll give you a hint. Someone's house is on fire.
So they leave the cave to go traipsing around, and they come across a house on fire.
That is exactly the plot.
Hulk tries to save somebody, and the dad's like, "Hey, I got my gun, and scares him away. And so Hulk and Rick go back to the cave, and Hulk turns back into Dr. Banner and goes to sleep because he's so tired. So tired, Mike.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the first story. Now I can recap the second story. Now I can recap it. We're ready to talk about it. What do you think?
I think we should talk about it.
Talk about the first story first?
Yeah, let's just talk about it. For one thing, I didn't read the part in the cover that said 2 feature-length Hulk thrillers in this issue. So I'm reading, and then it says the end, where you just ended your summary. And I legit thought that was the end of the book, and I almost put it aside to move on to our next book.
Yeah, because like our Thor and Ant-Man stories are short.
Well, not just that, but so far up until now, these have all been like part 1, the Hulk fights the Ringmaster. Part 2, the Ringmaster runs away. Part 3, the Hulk chases after him. And this said the end. So I'm like, okay, well, this issue went by really fast. Wow. And then I just turned it. Luckily, I kept turning the pages and then found that there was a whole new issue.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah, but what was interesting to me is like when it ended, I actually felt like denied in a way because like they set this whole... what's his name? General Ross ice machine thing that up, and then like nothing happens with it.
Right.
So that's why I was kind of shocked that it was over. And then the second story, I thought, oh, okay, here's where the ice thing comes into play, and it doesn't. It's a totally unrelated story. So that was weird. I wasn't sure what the point of all that was, other than to get Ross to take Rick into custody again.
And another element is that the first story sets up a lot of angst about Betty. She misses Bruce. And, you and I have been speculating about the passage of time. Mm-hmm. It really does seem that no time is passing between issues.
Right.
Because Bruce has been only missing for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And it was, on a side note, the first issue was the first day that Betty met Bruce. I wasn't sure about that when I was reading the first issue, but yeah, that was the first day they met. Yes. It's been a few days, and they really, really need to find Bruce. And when the story ends, we go into the second story. There are no Rosses.
No, but
there's
then
one soldier who mentions Ross in passing.
Then on the other hand, how could just a couple days pass when they have these machines they've built and these like Hulk fortress rooms they can put him in, every night? Like that seems like a lot of time has passed. But you're right. If you go by the dialogue and what people are actually feeling, it's like every issue is a day or something.
Right.
So it's kind of weird. It's sort of back and forth.
I mean, the whole thing with the machines is like us thinking about the plot and trying to make sense out of it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You could just pass that off as like some leftover stuff from some other experiment they were doing.
Yep.
Apparently they have an unlimited budget because Ross just goes through missile after missile after like he created a rocket just to get the Hulk to go in it and shoot him off into space, in the last issue. And now he's got an ice machine in this issue.
Maybe Ross steals all the rockets. Maybe all the money goes to him. Maybe that's why the Fantastic Four had to sneak into base to get that rocket for the first issue because Ross was taking all the rockets. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
No, that was just umming because I was done. I need to stop umming so much.
I have a there. I just ummed for you. I have a question about coloring.
Okay.
Do you think the colorist is supposed to be making these scenes at night, or do you think that when the Hulk is under Rick's control, it doesn't matter if it's day or night, he's just the Hulk?
I think we're past the day versus night thing.
Right. But they don't really say it.
Yeah, in issue 3, we lost the day versus night thing.
Okay.
This all looks like daytime to me. Of course, all of mine are recolored, so I always have to wonder, is it actually the coloring it was originally intended to be?
Right. It's all sky blue with me, too, and I think these are like copies of originals, so.
Okay. But yeah, whenever he went up and got that, he was in space and got that jolt that made him start being followed by Rick, that also jolted him into being able to stay the Hulk during the day.
Right.
But I've noticed a couple things that I forgot about while I was recapping the story, there's... Rick and Hulk. Rick gets taken up by Rick Jones and Rick gets taken up by Thunderbolt Ross and kind of yelled at him about where Bruce is, and so he summons the Hulk to come and save him. And there's this whole thing really ran about Hulk in a movie set and getting food, and while he's doing that, they try to capture him, and he does his first Hulk clap.
Yes, I love that. I actually like this. Is probably my favorite part of the story.
Oh, yeah?
Which is weird. I find that in these early books we're covered, a lot of times my favorite parts are the tangents that don't really matter all that much in the story grand scheme of things. But yeah, first of all, when apparently he has a range. Rick Jones has a range as to how far away he can be before he loses control of the Hulk.
And it's pretty far away.
Either that or Rick just didn't have any specific instructions for him because the Hulk goes rogue, right? Mm-hmm. And he flies around. And you're right, like the jumping or the flying, whatever you want to call it, totally looks like flying. Like he's just swooping out of the air and changing direction in air.
And flying like straight parallel to the ground. On page,
Right.
There's a really cool sequence on page 8 where Rick is in a Jeep and you're looking at the rearview mirror and Hulk is growing in the rearview mirror. It's a very movie-like thing, and I really like it. It was a good part of the issue. You're right. I'm sorry I forgot about my recap.
Yeah, but see, it doesn't really necessarily pertain to the story. You can omit it and the story still works. But what I was going to say is, like, when he's not under Rick's control and to the point where he just stands there motionless, he's not really the same old Hulk anymore either. Like the Hulk that was in issues 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3, I guess. He doesn't say anything. He reminds me more of like the Hulk that we're going to get. The Hulk Smash Hulk, you know? Other than the fact that he doesn't say Hulk Smash. I think the only thing he says is food.
He says food.
But he's like dumb, you know? And you can argue that that's because he's still under the Rick Jones influence and there's just no particular programming going on right now, so he's kind of running solo. But I kind of feel like maybe this is just a different incarnation too, because he got hit by the gamma rays and, you know, it changed him again.
It could have changed him and taken some of his intelligence. And
that's why he's out in the daytime again, for the first time, I should say.
The narration does say that he's operating on impulse because he's not receiving any commands from Rick, but you know, forget the narrator. I mean, this is just the Hulk being the Hulk.
And the Hulk kind of operates on impulse.
Right. There is actually a really sweet... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you're probably going to say the exact same thing I'm going to, so go ahead.
Bottom of page 9?
Oh, no, I'm on 6. The really sweet
6.
thing I was going to say is that he saves this busload of kids from the train.
Uh-huh.
And the caption is like, way, way deep down inside somewhere, Bruce Banner's conscience still exists. So we're establishing that the Hulk, even if he's not a different person, obviously. They're all the same person. But like if a different incarnation or a different personality, that he's still, maybe there's a part of Bruce Banner that won't let him go too far.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to think that. Or at least Banner has some influence over what the Hulk does. Maybe not complete influence. Maybe he can't always check him, but he's there.
Yeah.
So he saves the kids on the bus. He gets involved in a space movie, and then he wants food at the studio commissary. He's like, messed up the set, walks over to their food line, shoves all the people out of the way. He's like, food. And so he picks up the entire pot of whatever that is and starts slurping it up.
Yeah. And then they all try to catch him. And like you said, he does the thunderclap, which I've always thought was one of the coolest Hulk moves, personally.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never took physics in school, so I couldn't tell you if it actually makes any sense, but I have always thought visually it was a really cool idea.
I think it makes sense. Have a loud enough noise that shocks the eardrums in their inner ear enough to stun people and make them unable to, like, they lose their equilibrium. So you're not knocking them unconscious. You're just kind of like, everything goes crazy in their heads, so they fall down.
Yeah. That's what happens in this one. Sometimes it seems it's like a physical force. Like it'll knock somebody off their feet. Or in the case of the movie, he put the helicopter that was on fire and he put it out by thunderclapping it, which I thought was a really awesome visual.
That's pretty cool, too.
But I don't know if that works, but it was cool.
We get to the part in the cave where Rick has this thing and he wants to try to turn the Hulk back into Bruce, but he doesn't know if it's going to work and it might kill him. And he just, because he doesn't have Bruce to tell him how to work it and how to like change the controls and adjust the settings. And it's just a kind of a neat moment because he's like, Hulk, I need you to tell me, should I try to fix this? Even though it might kill you. And he's just like, try, Rick. Yeah. Which means at this point, Hulk is tired of being Hulk.
Hulk is tired of being Hulk, or because he's under Rick's influence, Banner has more control because he can't move or do anything, I guess. Or, yeah, who knows why, but it is a really cool moment.
Oh, he's under Rick's influence.
He is.
And Rick says, should I try? You've got to tell me. Yeah. And so Hulk is just obeying his commands.
Or
to
that.
say try.
Yeah. Right? And then he turns him to Clark Kent. Because for some reason in my
Bruce
book,
does look very Clarkish.
Bruce has black hair now.
He has brown on the next page.
Nope, not me. He's
Is it
totally
black in
blue. He's a
yours?
blue-haired black. Yeah, black with the blue-haired highlights and the glasses. He looks like Clark Kent to me.
Oh wow. Yeah, they've browned probably where the blue highlights are in yours because the black would just be ink, but they
Yeah.
put brown in on the recoloring.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't even know what color hair Bruce has. I in my head it's brown, but
Do you think that they're suggesting that Bruce Banner is going to be in a wheelchair forever?
no. But I feel like that's how Bruce is reacting.
Right. That's why I was wondering if, like, Rick, because he says it's not your fault, Rick. Like he damaged him somehow. But they
Yeah,
they
I
say
think
that
I think
it's-
Bruce is just tired from being the
Right.
Hulk for the last several days.
Yeah, he does go back and forth a lot, especially if, like we said, this is supposed to be happening every day. There's been a lot of he's stopped an alien invasion. He's stopped a bad circus. He stopped a some golem from the Iron Curtain. I mean, he's been busy.
But really, I mean, he turns back into Bruce. He gets in bed, gets a drink, and the caption says, minutes later, he's dressed in the wheelchair. He's like, okay, we'll make some minute adjustments here, and let's go back in. He just dives back into being the Hulk. So it's a really weird bit of impatience on his part to get that
Yeah.
strength back.
Yeah, maybe he's just like, the reverse worked. So now I know this machine works. So I can just make this one adjustment here, and then I know I can do it. I don't know.
But what it's really important to note is that, we had the werewolf by night aspect of him, and that's gone. So now he's manually changing. The whole
Yeah.
standard Hulk idea of uncontrollable changes just doesn't exist in this series.
Not yet.
And right now he actually wants to change because of the strength. So it's that comes later.
So speaking of changes and now talking about personas, I still don't think, even though he claims that he is Bruce Banner with the Hulk's body, I think it's a different incarnation.
I mean,
He's
I don't
just
think it's
fooling-
Bruce.
He's fooling himself.
Yeah, I don't think it's Bruce's personality because Rick even says he's more gruff. I think it's just a different Hulk.
It is. It's a Hulk. It's not even the same Hulk as the first Hulk we got, because the first Hulk we got seemed more like a monster and kind of worded things like a monster. Like, why would I want to be human and must go to this
Right.
place and get General Ross? But he didn't really have thoughts like this guy. This guy is like thing level articulate, at least. But he does seem awfully grouchy, and he doesn't talk like a scientist. Well, he kind of does. I've arranged the controls so that I can work them myself. That seems pretty Bruce Banner.
I mean, he
But then-
has some intelligence.
But then there's other times when it's like, it didn't vanish, Sonny. I got rid of it for you. That doesn't sound like Bruce necessarily. The brainless idiots, they're shooting at me. I don't know. So yeah, and then at the end, I mean, unless you have something else, at the end, it's like Bruce is even admitting in his, in his thought bubble here that he's not really in control. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, he's talking about the Hulk in the third person. I hope he never turns on me. So there's definitely there's some back and forth and some give and take between the two personas, and how much of one and how much of the other. That different kinds of mixture can probably determine what the Hulk's acting like.
yeah,
He does say, he's so tired, he has to rest. He can't keep changing so often. And my thought is, then stop changing. Like, if you're at this point now where you don't have to be the Hulk, then you're done. Go find that woman that you
Right.
met. She misses you, and you're done.
the
Bye,
funny thing
Bruce.
is he's never had to be the Hulk. The Hulk has accomplished nothing. The Hulk hasn't saved anybody or been needed particularly yet.
Yeah,
So he could just
Hulk
stop.
was in the way.
Right. Maybe it's like heroin or something. Maybe it's an addiction, the power, even if you can't quite benefit from it. And maybe after you've done your last fix, it's like, okay, I'm going to take a break for a while, but you're just fooling yourself, and tomorrow you're going to want to do it again.
So ready for the second half?
Yeah. Let's see him do it again.
Okay. We had sci-fi drama for the first half, mostly just, silly action and stuff, but this next half is random alien monster because Mongu, is it Mongu? Mm-hmm. Is that his name?
Yep.
A Mongu is this big old burly, I think he has tusks and hair that turns into his beard, he's a big old guy. And he lands with his fellow aliens in a spaceship in the desert, and he wants to fight the Hulk. Calls out the Hulk, and Bruce and Rick are sitting around watching TV, because that's what you do whenever no one knows where you are and they think that you're lost and have, you have a commanding officer that you haven't reported to in several days. But, let's check out the boob tube. And, hey, look, there's a monster calling out the Hulk. So Bruce is like, okay, I guess we're going to have to find out what this is all about. Stop that monster. Stop that alien. Uses his brand new gamma laser gun with the footy controls to turn himself into the Hulk. They go over there, face off with the monster. And like after 30 seconds of fighting, it becomes very apparent that it's not actually a giant alien monster. It's a total sham. It's a dude in a suit. They're all dudes in suits. And the alien ship is just like an airplane or helicopter with ship outsides. It's communists, Mike.
Right.
The communists are
That's
here.
worse. Yeah.
Pretending to be an alien. So it's like two different tropes combined into one. You have the alien invaders and you have the commie bastards, and it's both. So they fight Hulk for a second, and then Hulk is like, there's more army coming in. You better get out of here. And I forget how it ends. Does he knock them all out with his big old clap or something?
Well, he's the Hulk, so an entire group of humans isn't really much of a threat. And he ends up wrapping them up in their own belts and hooking them to their own helicopter and letting them fly away. And then the army blames the Hulk for setting up this whole Mongu.
Oh, that's right, because they find the Mongu exoskeleton,
right,
and the fake ship, and they think the whole thing was a hoax, which it was. But they don't know anything about commie bastards, so they think it was the Hulk who perpetrated the whole thing.
That's right, because the commie bastards are on their way back to wherever. Right. And then it ends with like Bruce hobbling down the catacombs on like Rick's shoulder because he's not looking so good.
I have very little to say about this story.
Yeah, it's just more of the same of what we already talked about. I would like to say Mongu reminds me a heck of a lot of a New Gods character, but I'm not sure who or why. Even like his name. You're the DC guy. Is there any DC guy that was... Maybe. No, that dude doesn't look like this guy. I don't know. It just seems very DC to me, but even though that stuff hasn't even been invented yet as of this comic, but...
Yeah, it's a solid decade away.
Yeah. It's just a very Kirby character, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was really excited. I'm like, all right, a showdown with Mongu. And then they opened up his belly, and it was my least favorite Stan Lee villain.
The Russian general.
Yeah, someone from the Red Curtain. Yeah.
Right.
They don't even have the decency to tell you what country it's from, They're just always saying communist or Red Curtain.
Right.
Which I will want to talk about in a future issue, but not this one. But yeah, it's mostly just fighting, which is fun. It's hard to talk about, but like there's like 8 guys with rifles. How hard is this for the Hulk, Not hard at all. And just like the last story, it's clearly more hulky than Bruce Banner running the show here. The way he talks and the way he fights. But yeah, nothing really happens. They just beat the dudes up, get blamed for it, and then it's over.
The beginning of the story, we do come in with Rick and Bruce just like hanging out in their underground cave. So it's conceivable there might be like a time skip, like there would be between comic stories. But since, there's all this stuff hanging over our heads about him not reporting in and Betty looking for him, that I'm going to assume this is just like after he had a nap. This is what happened.
Either that or he's not reporting in and he's living underground already. But I don't know why he would do that.
Yeah, because I know that he is going to return to sort of status quo because whenever we get to Fantastic Four 12, Bruce is a person again.
Okay. So yeah, it must just be the next day.
But I like in page 4, whenever Bruce turns into the Hulk, and the Hulk says, "Don't just stand there, kid. Get moving. I may need you." And Rick says, "Sure, Hulk, sure." And in my head, he's so used to the Hulk hating him that like the Hulk wanting him to come on a mission is like, okay, yeah, I can come.
Oh, see, I read it more like, you sure don't talk like Banner and you're making me nervous.
Oh.
But either way works. Don't just stand there. Actually. Don't just stand there, kid. I don't know. Does he talk like that? Maybe he does. And then they charter a jet.
Yeah, they charter a jet, which
it's like what?
They're able to. The Hulk is able to fly. So that's
is the Hulk flying? That's a good point. It could be the Hulk. Maybe Rick Jones can fly. Seems unlikely.
It does seem unlikely. He was hanging out in his Jeep with a harmonica a few days ago in the desert.
Yeah, That's true.
In a blast zone because his friends dared him to. I mean, maybe he has a pilot's license.
You got to admit, though, that Rick is like a pretty cool dude, other than the whole accidentally creating the Hulk, because he's really sticking with the guy for as long as he can. I don't know what life he had before this, but apparently it's gone now.
Well, he has that one aunt that he's never seen before and never
Right.
will ever see again.
I mean, did he have school or a girlfriend or friend? He obviously had friends because they dared him, or he lied about it.
To himself,
But yeah, he just
harmonica.
has no life. Right. He just has no life now because he's just sacrificing. He's like, you saved my life, so now my life is yours kind of mentality, I guess.
But the Hulk actually does save the day this time, which is, kind of crazy. Again, there's no mention of all the angst and worry from Betty in the second story. And also, I think that Rick needs to stop commenting on how Bruce is losing his strength. Because he talked about it at the end of last story times at the end of the story, like, oh, Bruce, you're so weak now that it's going to give Bruce a complex, which is why he's going to want to become the Hulk again.
Oh, yeah. Mongu comes out and says, I want to challenge the strongest guy on Earth. And what does Bruce do? That's me.
That's me. I can be that guy.
Yeah. And he is, by the way, walking. So I guess the wheelchair thing wasn't permanent.
Right.
And he smokes a pipe now.
I'm very curious to see why he turns into the Hulk in 5. Why he decides to make that decision again, because it shouldn't happen, but it will.
Of course. Otherwise, it's going to be called the Incredible Bruce Banner.
Yeah, the only thoughts I had on this issue, the Hulk can control his changes now. His transition from human to monster is completely voluntary, which is kind of weird because it's not a Hulk dynamic we are not familiar with. And Bruce Banner is still missing from the army, and like you said, it might be because he's finding his life as the Hulk too addicting. So those are just my continuity notes going from this issue into waiting for the next one.
Which is Fantastic Four, number 9.
Number 9.
Which came out in September? Yeah, September 4th, 1962, and it's my turn to tell the tale of the end of the Fantastic Four. So, it's been a good run, 9 issues, but I guess they cancel after this.
Right. You don't want to get to double digits, are harder to print.
Right. So let's just enjoy this last issue of Fantastic Four, which opens with Submariner in his underground palace watching like Atlantean Dish Network or something. And he sees on the news that the Fantastic Four are bankrupt. And we all think, well, that's baloney. There's gotta be some twist to this, right? Well, we cut to the Fantastic Four and there is no twist. They are destitute. Reed Richards, after making all this money with his awesome scientific patents that he stole from Hank Pym, apparently invested all the money in the stock market. The stock market crashed, and now they are broke. And they are selling off pieces of I always want to call it the Four Freedoms Plaza, but technically that's not what it's called yet. So I'll just call it Fantastic Four's building. They're like selling pieces of rocket here and there, and people are just ransacking the place. And basically Reed Richards' idea of getting out of this debt is to break up the Fantastic Four, sell all the stuff they use to be the Fantastic Four, and hope they break even. But luckily, at like the last minute, they get a mail. That's one of those letters. They get a letter in the mail, I should say, asking them to come to Hollywood and star in a Fantastic Four movie, and they will be paid $1 million, which I guess is enough to get them out of this debt. So they hitchhike over there immediately, because remember, they have no vehicles or money or anything anymore, so they had to hitchhike. And when they get there, they find that the movie mogul, producer, director, I'm not sure what his role was, who invited them was none other than Namor, the Submariner. Namor has a lot of money because he is the master of the oceans, and the oceans have a lot of like lost treasures and valuable things. So he just kind of, put all that together and cashed it in for U.S. currency, and now he owns a movie studio. And he asked the FF, hey, do you want to be in my movie? And they're like, well, we need the money, so let's just do it. So step 1, Namor takes Mr. Fantastic to an island and tells him he has to fight a robotic Cyclops as part of the movie. No lines, just go in there and fight him. We'll film it. Great. So Mr. Fantastic goes on the island. Namor flies away. And Mr. Fantastic goes, hey, you left me here. And then it turns out it's not really a robot Cyclops. It's an actual Cyclops that is like friends with Namor. And Namor told the Cyclops to kill Mr. Fantastic. But Mr. Fantastic makes short work of him because Just because he's a big Cyclops doesn't mean he can step on someone that's made of rubber. So he tries, it doesn't work, and then he falls into a pit. Next, we get Namor pulling the same fast one on the Human Torch, takes him to an island, says, hey, just go down there and fight those natives. I'll be here to film it. As soon as they go down, Namor takes off. And it turns out the natives are this rare, native society that, I don't know, either worship flame or hate flame or something, but they have this potion that they take that allows them to not be hurt by flame, which is pretty sucky for a guy named the Human Torch. So he tries to fight them. They capture him for a little bit, but he easily escapes. And then he finds an active volcano where he shoots some flames into, and the volcano erupts. And it turns out, their potion is only so good. It doesn't work against molten lava. So they run away, and Human Torch decides to fly back to confront Namor. And then we got the Thing and Namor on a beach, and Namor tells Thing, okay, the next scene is you and me are going to fight. Or you and I are going to fight. Whatever's proper Atlantean. And the Thing says, what? I can't fight you. I'd destroy you. And Namor answers that with a big punch to the face and proceeds to totally beat on the Thing and the Thing can't figure out how he's so powerful all of a sudden, but then he realizes, well, duh, he's Atlantean and he's standing in the water and we're fighting in the ocean. So he grabs Namor by the neck and pulls him out of the water and is going to make mincemeat of him. But right before that happens, a random lightning bolt, not making this up, kids, a random lightning bolt hits the Thing and he turns into Ben Grimm just in time for Namor to punch him in the face and knock him cold. So now Namor has taken care of 3 out of the 4 Fantastic Four. He goes back to the studio where the smitten Invisible Girl is waiting for him. And she goes, oh, sure, let's hook up. But first, where's my friends? And he's like, you know what? I got rid of all your friends, lady, because you and me, we're going to get married. And as much as she thinks he's hot, she decides to be loyal to her, teammates and says, hey, it's not the Fantastic 3, it's the Fantastic 4, and you've got to deal with me. At which point she turns invisible, starts throwing books at him and rugs and stuff, and she's kind of actually winning because he's just so I don't know where she is, and he's stumbling over his own 2 feet, but then he realizes that he has the powers of any animal in the sea, and one fish can see in the dark, so he uses that power. And he grabs her, and who knows what he's going to do with her, but we'll never find out because the 3 boys come back, bust through the door, and say, hey, that was a really bad thing you did to us, so we're all going to gang up and fight you, but then you'll probably lose, right? And Namor says, yup, I probably would lose. So he goes back into the water, sulking, and the last panel is the Fantastic Four being famous for starring in a movie because apparently the footage that was never taken was released anyway, and they got money, and they're all back, and everything's good again. The end.
Yeah, how this actually became a movie is anyone's guess. Maybe they actually did continue filming. I don't know.
Yeah.
The last time we saw Submariner, he seemed pretty chill. He had helped ward off Doctor Doom. He had helped restore the Fantastic Four building, which I think this is the one that's going to become the Baxter building. Isn't Four Freedoms Plaza the new building they get in the 80s or something?
Oh, Baxter building. I forgot about that word. Yeah, you're right, I think.
They haven't named it yet in either case, but that's what my memory was. But this seemed like a very we are not the Justice League kind of story idea. We've had a couple things where it just seems like Stan and Jack are trying to do stuff that they would not do in the other company.
Well, if you read the letter pages, which I'm sure we all are, there's a lot of praise for how they are not like the Justice League. And it's so great to see superheroes squabbling with each other and not having secret identities and having problems. And I could just see Stan going, you know what kind of problems people have? Bankruptcy. Let's throw that on them. But can I just say...
they're going to...
go ahead.
I was going to say they're going to keep this idea for Spider-Man. It works a lot better for him, I think, than the Fantastic Four.
Oh, totally. It makes the Fantastic Four look like dummies, really.
Yeah.
But I just want to talk about the cover for just 1 second, and that's going to require me to backtrack 2 issues, which I don't really want to do often, but in this case, I looked at the cover before reading any of it, and I just saw a mob of people throwing bricks at the Fantastic Four, right?
Right.
With Namor standing there smiling. Now, if you read the captions, it says they're broke and they're being kicked out of town. But before I had read that, I flashed back to number 7 of the Fantastic Four. The plot with Jor-El and Krypton, and like in order to get Fantastic Four to come back to Krypton with them, the robot like made the whole world hate the Fantastic Four, right?
Yes.
I think we kind of forgot to talk about the fact that they never solved that problem.
Oh, you're right. They never do address the fact that everybody hated the FF.
They never discovered that the robot did it. So as far as they're concerned, the whole world still hates them, and they're coming back to it. And then I thought that was the last issue, and this was the follow-up. And I was like, wow, continuity. They come back to Earth, and everybody still hates them. But then I remembered the whole Puppet Master thing, so that didn't make sense. And really, I'm just talking about this because there's no real point, other than it made me think of that issue. And now there's two issues.
Well, yeah, in two issues, it has been, and it is easy to conflate those ideas. But yeah, this is definitely... All of this seems to be Namor's bid for Sue's heart.
Yep.
That's his whole plan. He's not actually anti-Fantastic Four so much as he is, they're in my way to get Susan Storm.
Which, if he were smart, he'd realize that would never work. Like, it'd be better if he just straight up tried to date her, right?
If he tried to follow some Western, surface people customs.
Right. Because it's not like they have her trapped. She could do what she wants. I mean, they might give her grief for it, but she could just say, sure, let's start seeing each other. Anyway.
So the Fantastic Four have run out of money.
But...
And, yeah.
They do address how they got the money, which we'd been wondering about.
Yeah, because I had this whole thing about how they might have gotten money and how they might have lost the money, and then they go and explain it all.
Yeah. I'd really like to know what those patents are.
I'm guessing on things like their vertical takeoff and landing thing and their pogo plane and their stretchy powers, and maybe he patented Thing's skin.
See, because as much as I love Marvel and how it kind of feels like more like in our universe, as we've talked about before, sometimes I wonder if it would be cool to see actual changes to our world because the Fantastic Four live in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why can't everybody have a fantastic car? Or I don't know what, unstable molecules. Maybe they do, but. Do you think Reed could cure cancer? It seems like he should be able to, but things like that. So there's all these patents, and they just that's just all one panel. Like, oh, I had all these patents and made millions of dollars, and then I invested them and they went away. But that just made me wonder, what were the patents? Were they super sci-fi in nature, or were they just things that we take for granted that nobody did he just invent the Post-it and we don't know?
That's what I want to have happen. He's the guy who invented Post-it notes.
I mean, he could invent because we don't know who invented most things that are in our lives. So maybe he invented the iPhone or something. Who knows? Be interesting to find out.
Ben Grimm seems to be the most upset about all this, and he's so upset about all the hours designing everything. I'd like to think that he actually helped with the designing part.
I do too.
Some of it was before he became the Thing. Maybe if it was after he became the Thing. He still, he still has all of his brains. He just doesn't like to act like it. So he storms off because he's so upset. And I love how he gets outside and the taxi won't take him, so he shoves the taxi, breaks it up, and he's still at the bottom of his building, and he shoots the flare.
Right.
And he gets the torch to pick him up and take him to Alicia's. Yeah. And the torch comes down in the car. He's like, well, if I knew it was you. And it's like, what do you mean if I knew it was you? I mean, your sister and her and Reed are upstairs. I mean.
Yeah. Maybe he meant dude, why are you asking for a lift? You haven't even left yet.
But he goes to see Alicia, who's right now just a friendship. Yeah.
I skipped over that in the summary because, again, that's one of these off-tangent things, but I really do love this part a lot. Because, we talked about, I think when we covered FF1 and probably other times, where Stan had this idea of Thing being maybe the doctor of the Lost in Space, not necessarily part of the team.
Right.
He's there for Sue, and he's going to maybe screw up their attempts at being heroes every once in a while. But I love this scene where it's essentially Alicia's just that's what your creator Stan Lee wants, but I can see the future. And in the future, you've got a heart of gold, and you're a very moral, upstanding guy, and you would never abandon your friends ever. And he's just oh yeah, that is me. And I just thought that was cool. Yeah, but it's just that. This is the conversion right here. Maybe maybe she calls him on his crap. Maybe he was like that as a human, and then when he became Thing, he's been grouchy for a while. Rightly so. And now she's just I see the inside you, and this is all just baloney. I know for a fact that you would never do this to your friends. And then he comes back all like the beloved thing, you know, like giving them all a team hug and everything.
And she has sculpted a knight, which we did not see any sculpting from her last issue.
Right. So does that mean maybe she sculpted the Puppet Master's puppets?
Well, those were all out of radioactive clay. He had to do those with gloves on.
Oh, yeah.
It's possible, but I'd like to think that if so, then he, you know, and of course her sculpting ability is straight up Daredevil level. You know, it's just
she's got two.
There's no way.
She's got two clowns hanging in the back of this one panel too. So I guess that's a hobby for her.
The bottom of that page reads holding of a comic book. He says, "If only we could be like the superheroes in some of these comic magazines, Sue." And she says, "I can't bear to see you torture yourself this way." And it's just like, draw a big frickin' arrow on it. Don't torture yourself. Don't read DC Comics, Reed. They're terrible. Don't do it. Which is not how I feel. I'm a big DC fan. I like Silver Age DC. I've read every Superman comic from this era I've read. But it seems like that's what they're doing.
That is exactly what they're doing, and it's awesome. I mean, I too like DC, so I'm not trying to slam on them, but I do think it's. I just see Stan Lee like rubbing his hands together on that panel. That's hilarious.
I enjoy the rivalry, especially in these early days where Marvel is an up and comer and they kind of have the right to sort of rib the establishment.
Yeah.
And I like the rivalry in later decades whenever it's like, yes, we're rivals, but we also work together on projects.
Yeah.
I'm not super fond of the rivalry nowadays where like it's Marvel versus DC and nobody at Marvel likes people at DC and nobody at DC likes people at Marvel and like the fan there's nothing cooperative anymore about DC and Marvel.
And do you think that's either A, because of the movies that both sides are doing now, whereas before they kind of Marvel really didn't have much of a movie presence for a while, so there was never that. Or do you think maybe it's just all in our heads because all we do is read Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus all day?
I don't know. I mean, the last couple times I've seen someone mention a team up that they've actually responded to, they're like, "Who's going to profit from this? Who's going to make money off of this?" And it just seems to be like, we're not going to do this. And it's a commercial art business, so you can't do a project unless it's going to be profitable. But at the same time, wouldn't it be profitable? Maybe JLA Avengers tanked. I don't know. Wasn't JLA Avengers the last big thing they did?
That couldn't have tanked. That was awesome.
That's the impression I have. I haven't read it, but
Kurt Busiek and George Perez, that was a huge event. I don't know what the sales were, but I don't remember it.
It didn't spawn the Amalgam Universe?
Okay, so Amalgam Universe, Marvel versus DC, I thought was pretty horrible. I don't know the numbers, though. I'm just going by my own personal opinion. But
well, JLA Avengers was after Marvel versus DC, right?
Right. I thought Amalgam was before JLA Avengers, too. But
I don't know where Amalgam came out of. I think Amalgam did come out of Marvel versus DC.
Right. So it was Marvel versus DC, Amalgam. Oh, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. They did that whole vote thing. Who would win in a fight? Pitting us poor, pitiful fans against each other. And then they turned it, hey, just kidding. We're all friends. And they mushed all their characters together, which we all found to be great fun. And then, yeah, JLA Avengers. That is like a good read. If you haven't read that and you're a fan of JLA or the Avengers, major respect to both teams, in my opinion. I'm sure there are people out there that would disagree, because there always are. Kurt Busiek obviously hates the JLA, or he obviously hates the Avengers. But I thought it was great respect for both universes, and a real good knowledge of both universes, and a real good flair for making you feel like the differences between both universes.
And it was like, the JLA were in the Grant Morrison run and the Avengers were in the Kurt Busiek run. So they're both at really high spots in their history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to it eventually.
Well, we'll get there.
We will. Damn it. But
how did we get on that truck? Because of that panel. Yeah. That's right.
Okay. So page 5, he's like, Johnny doesn't understand that it takes money to run an outfit like ours. There's upkeep on our planes, there's equipment, electronic devices. And I'm like, don't forget all the asbestos spray for Johnny's apartment.
It is a little weird. I mean, I don't want to nitpick plot per se, but like Reed thinking they have to disband seems odd to me. Like, why can't you just, I guess because of the upkeep he's saying, but why can't you all just go live at Sue's house and still fight people?
And they get a letter from S&M Studios. And I'm like, what kind of movies are you making?
Yeah. Is that what it is? Oh, my God. It is SM Studios.
Yep.
Submariner Studios. Oh, God.
Right.
I didn't notice that. I like the hitchhiking scene. It's totally comical. It's totally laughable. You kind of think like, oh my God, there must have been 28 other ways they could have got to that studio. But at the same time, it's just funny.
They're going all the way across the freaking country. Hitchhiking? Wow.
In their outfits.
Johnny's all hitched over too. He's doing the whole like hitchhiking pose. You going my way, buddy?
And they noticed they got Sue up front to show her leg first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
You get all the Hollywood stardust. I'm sure there are lots of likenesses that Kirby's doing here. I don't know all of the names.
Okay, so let's try. Because I tried a little.
You can. I don't know them at all.
Okay. Well, the one guy is Alfred Hitchcock. That's pretty obvious because it's a profile shot. And then there's Bob Hope and what I think is I can't remember his name now. He's one of the Frank Sinatra guys. And then I think this dude is from the Honeymooners. What's his name? Jackie Gleason.
Oh, Jackie Gleason, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got really. I'm sure there's supposed to be more, but I didn't.
Who do you think is the cowboy? Robert Redford or something?
See, that's what I didn't know. Like, is that supposed to be John Wayne or something like that?
And he can only do one female face, so I don't know who that is.
Right. Yeah, that looked like a very specific pose and dress, though, so I'm wondering if we're supposed to know that, too. Someone should write in who knows this stuff better than we do.
Well, he has all these really great lines and details in the other people's faces, and the woman is just literally just a nose and eyes. There's nothing to define who she is there.
Yeah. And they all have dialogue. They all have dialogue, so obviously we're supposed to know who these people are.
But the Submariner turns around with the cigarette stick, and he promises them $1 million to do the movie.
Yeah.
And the first thing that Johnny does, I mean, forget the debts they have to pay off. Forget the people who are currently taking their things because we owe them money. Johnny buys a sports car and gets some chicks.
Yep, he's a kid. I'm trying to figure out what inflation is. Okay, so they're essentially making $8 million. $8
million?
That doesn't seem like enough to buy rockets and buildings and stuff to me. Like it's like Dr. Evil. Stan was just like, $1 million sounds good.
$100 billion. Well, inflation is weird because it's not just inflation; it's also like just how much stuff costs compared to how much you're making money.
That's true.
We make less money now compared to the cost of things.
Right. Like rockets.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. So I'm going with the idea that Susan is legit toying with the idea of romance with Namor. That if things had gone just a little bit differently in this issue, she'd be with Namor.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that how you read it?
Oh, of course. Yeah, they're going out to dinner. He didn't blackmail her into going out to dinner, did he?
No.
She's there in a fancy dress, candlelight. I was thinking about you, Namor. Mm-hmm. You've been so kind to us, so generous. And
she has a picture of him back in her room. And I mean, her engagement fell apart. You know, we talked about that. Her engagement for issue 1 has fallen apart. She and Rita are no longer together. Yeah. And Namor is a pretty impressive man.
Yeah.
Now, the way that the story's been told so far, it's very Stan Lee misogynistic. They've encountered one time and he's all like trying to possess her and she's responding positively to that, which is not realistic at all. But within the confines of the genre.
Right. Well, we don't really know her backstory yet. So we don't know. We can't even theorize as to what kind of man she would like. So I guess her liking Namor is just as good as any other guy. Mm-hmm. He's rich, he's powerful, he's super strong, he walks around in his underwear. And it's not quite written this way, but I like the idea of him whining and dining Sue Storm while all the other FFers are taken to their traps. Like, he's showing her a good time, and in the background of the story, the other team members are having troubles and winding up and trapped and everything, but that's not the way it's written. No, because he's gone along to all the traps. So yeah, that's too bad that they did it that way. Maybe it would have been cooler if just his henchmen took them out to the locations. And is this a real way of making movies, just like filming action scenes and figuring out the story later? I mean, that's sort of a trope I see in stories about making movies, but does that happen? Maybe in the 60s it did? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it happens now. Right. But maybe in the Charlie Chaplin days or something, he just did something and then they made a movie out of it. I don't know. Yeah, movies are too big now to just make it up as you go along, I would guess. But I don't know. Maybe back then. Or it's a comic book trope.
Yeah. I mean, you do have things like the Power Rangers, which all the action scenes from the Power Rangers, all the stuff where they're in their suits fighting monsters, all of that is actually taken from a very different Japanese show, and English dialogue is laid over the top of it.
Right. Or the last movie that Bruce Lee was in. You know, he died mid-shoot, so they just took what they had and made a whole movie around those two pieces of footage. So, I don't know. Maybe if you're dealing with superheroes, you make them do some action stuff, and then you hope that you can come up with something more interesting later. But in this case, he's not making a movie anyway. I guess Reed and Johnny and the Thing just wouldn't know how to make a movie regardless. They do question it. I mean, he's like, there's no dialogue or anything? And no, you just, we don't need a script right now.
Just go over there and thrash around. We'll figure it out later.
Mm-hmm.
With the whole Human Torch scene, I thought that, like, even if you're immune to fire, which is a bit of a stretch, but, you know, wouldn't a dude bursting into flames right in front of you still be kind of startling?
Yeah, especially if you're all about the fire, whether anti or pro fire. I'm not really sure which. I forgot to tell that fool teenager one little detail. Those natives have a magic potion which makes them immune to fire. So, and he never says, is that because they worship fire so badly that they don't want to get burned by it? Or do they just hate fire?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
They really like showing off how they can't get hurt by flame, though. They have, like, the bonfire going and they walk through it. And
Johnny's entire power he's probably the most inconsistent Fantastic Four member as far as powers go. Like, just, he's kind of like Ant-Man. Just like, that's not the way ants work. And a lot of times I'm thinking, that's not the way fire would work necessarily. Or, you know.
Like that volcano. Oh, look, this ball has been smoldering for years, even though I just got here. Shoot a fireball into it and...
Well, that, or like he's bulletproof. It's like, how hot are you that a bullet going that fast would just melt quickly enough without hitting you, you know? Like, stuff like that.
Oh, but he does make the flame duplicates here, which is like Strange Tales striking again.
Yeah. I think that's cool. I like the duplicates. We'll have more to say about that in the next issue where there's something I don't like about the duplicates, but in this particular case, it's cool. But how did Reed get off the island, by the way? That makes me wonder.
How did Reed get away from the Cyclops Island?
Yeah, because he can't fly, and there's no helicopter anymore. He's stuck there forever.
Oh.
Or unless there was still a boat. Maybe there was a boat.
You know, he got there by boat. He stretched over from a boat. He could stretch over away again. No, he says now to return home. We're finished here. So theoretically, Submariner took the boat.
Yeah. Stretched?
I guess.
Human Torch picked him up on the way?
Yeah, I don't see how he could possibly have gotten back. I'm flipping through now. Yeah, the next time we see Reed, he's just bashing in with Thing and Johnny. Speaking of Thing, though, like, the fight between Thing and Namor seems to be the most, like, passion-driven. Like, Namor really wants to show the Thing a thing or two. So, in my head, I'm like, so what if Sue told Namor about Thing flirting with her and, like, finding her picture? What if Sue knows that Ben has a thing for her and in their dinner conversation this came out and Namor's like, okay, this guy's going down.
Wow. You know, that would have been a great on-panel thing to have happen. But we could still make that part of our continuity and our headcanon.
Right.
I like that. That's a really good idea. Or at the very least, Namor just perceives the Thing's like overprotective love smittenness towards Sue, like in past encounters or something. Either way works. But like, why not want to rip? And that's kind of a testament to how Reed doesn't seem to give a care anymore because, like, there's no jealousy from Submariner towards Reed ever.
There's nothing between Namor and Reed in this issue. There's not a single thing that's like on a personal level between them. And there really should be.
Yeah.
If he still has a thing for Sue.
Well, same with the last time when they caught her with the picture and he was like, you need to explain to us why you have that picture of our villain. Not do you need to explain to me why you have a picture of a topless guy. I love this fight, though. It's really cool.
With the Thing and Namor, yeah. And
I could picture the part where, like, there's this 3 panels where it's like he pounds on Thing's shoulders and pushes him into the sand, and then he goes back up and does it again and again and again, you know, until he's like under the water. That's just really cool.
That is a cool part. There's Kirby has such a good eye for action and just what would look good in motion and like taking several panels to portray that motion. I mean, normally with a 9-panel layout, we associate that with Steve Ditko or whatever, but Kirby can tighten it up when he needs to.
And they established last time, because he had to go find a water tank to bathe in before he could go beat up Doctor Doom, that obviously in the water he's stronger, or when he's recently touched water he's stronger. But I do find it interesting that the Thing was like baffled that he even wanted to fight him, because he's like, you have no chance against me, you know? And he's seen Submariner in action, so he clearly thinks that he's just way stronger than this guy.
And to be fair, the Thing has not yet had anything meet his match.
Right. And I like that once he takes him out of the water, it does appear as if Submariner now will have no chance. Until this random lightning bolt, which, come on. Come on. I mean, I know it's 1962, and this is for... Who is he writing this for? Teenagers or kids, do you think?
Probably young teens. I mean, I think Strange Tales is for the older kid market. I think Fantastic Four is for the young teens.
But isn't that still like a little like... And then just a random lightning bolt. I don't know.
Well, he's got a... I don't know, because they seem really concerned in these early issues with making the Thing turn back into Ben. Like, and I don't know if they were going somewhere with it, because they just drop it eventually.
Do you want to know what I think all of a sudden? Because you just said that. He's been turning into Ben randomly for 9 issues. Mm-hmm. What if this is, again, a difference between art and dialogue? Like, Kirby's just having him change. That's not a lightning bolt. That's just him being, like, suddenly struck into changing. Oh. And it's like action. And then Stan Lee sees that and goes, what, is he getting hit by a lightning bolt? I'll just write that in the caption.
Oh, that does make sense. That, like, it's not a lightning bolt hitting him. It's just like a way of showing the shock of the change beginning.
Yeah, suddenly he's changing. Oh, and there's action lines. It doesn't really look like a lightning bolt per se. Mm-hmm. I think that's what happened. I think that happens a lot in these issues. I've noticed.
Yeah. We got to be careful with art versus dialogue. You might accidentally destroy a planet, then you have to kill a character.
Well, for those who don't know, like, they did all these in the Marvel method, which is not the same as how they did things maybe before or since, where usually, like, the writer writes the dialogue and the script and maybe even breaks down each panel for the artist. And this is like Stan Lee is writing all these books. There's some debate about how much plot he even gave Kirby. Maybe Kirby was doing all this on his own.
Well, I think the plot that we saw in the Fantastic Four 1 Bible is probably indicative of what kind of plot Kirby would get.
Right.
It's going to be 11 pages long. Here are the ideas. Here's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And Kirby actually kind of changed that story up a bit.
Yeah. So, and then I think Stan would come in after the pictures are done and write his Stan Lee,
Snazafraz dialogue.
Snazafraz dialogue, right. Snazafraz is perfect. So sometimes I think he just misunderstood or misinterpreted what the art was supposed to be saying.
Or in the case of, like, Thor and Strange Tales, Stan Lee does the plot, Kirby does the breakdowns or full pencils, whatever. Someone else comes along and inks it and actually fleshes out the images. And then Stan's brother, Larry, is the one who actually has to do the scripting. And so that's like 4 different people making this story happen, and who knows how much they're talking to each other.
Right. And how quickly they're doing it.
Right. So there's not really a whole lot else to say. They come in and fight. And, on page 23, she says, where is it? Okay, they're about to fight him, and she gets in front. And she says, stay back, all of you. Even if you think he is your enemy, it's 3 against 1. You've never ganged up on anyone before.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Besides, we made a contract with Namor. We lived up to our part. He cooperated in his movie. Now he must live up to his part. In my mental movie of all of this, I'm sorry. Forget all that I was just reading. This is the thing I was actually wanting to read. After all, he lives by a different code than we do. He can never really understand us. And whatever he did for love. And I would like to think that after she said that, she and Reed sort of had like an unspoken moment. Maybe eye contact. Maybe she touches his shoulder as she walks past them and out of the room or something to resurrect his hope for them. Because in the last panel, they have their arms kind of casually romantically around each other.
I didn't notice that either. Another headcanon written by John that I will register in my brain because I like that.
Meanwhile, Ben is kind of side-eyeing him in that last panel. Like his head is kind of cocked. He's like, well, bullocks.
Well, okay. I have Alicia now, so it's okay.
Yeah. I did mostly enjoy this issue, actually more than I thought I would, because I wasn't really expecting to like it very much. But it was mostly for the subtext I was adding in more than the actual story.
Yeah, I like this issue a lot. I don't know. I mean, it's not the most serious or epic or earth-shattering Fantastic Four issue, but it was just like a lot of good fun. Which seems to be the issues I enjoy so far with the Fantastic Four the most. Like, I don't know, they weren't the Toadman. Oh, the Skrulls, that was kind of fun, but it's like, it's just silly. Mm-hmm. Because again, they're not really superheroes, so it's kind of fun to see them just do different things. Like Fantastic Four goes to Hollywood, or has no money.
Who needs money anyway?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good dynamic. It's our only team book, too, so it's the only book we have where, superheroes are interacting with one another.
Agreed. Well, that has taken us well past the hour mark, so I guess we had one other issue lined up for this one, but we'll have to say that for next time. But it's kind of a good thing because we have a whole bunch of our smaller stories next time. We might just barrel through all of the ones. I don't know.
I think next episode is going to have 128 issues we cover.
All the strange tales. 5 minutes per issue. Just like, okay.
People still don't know Johnny is the Human Torch. Next issue.
Before we go, you should probably tell them where we can find us, and then I can say thank you to people who have found us.
You can find everything you need to know about us at makeoursmarvel.com. It has our links to the social media, to the RSS feed, to the iTunes. Has a contact form. You can write in and let us know who those celebrities were in this issue. Or you can write directly a podcast at makeoursmarvel.com. And speaking of iTunes, I haven't begged about this yet, but I just realized that the other day. If you want to leave us a review, or maybe somewhere else that you play us, like Google Play, I think we're on that. I'm not really sure how all that works, but definitely iTunes, leave a review, preferably a good one, but no pressure. And the more reviews we get, the more likely we'll get hit if someone searches Marvel or, awesome podcast or something. That would be appreciated.
If you're one of the people watching us on YouTube, you can leave a comment.
Oh, yeah. We also have a YouTube. I forget about that one.
Well, it's linked from the website, makeoursmarvel.com.
Yes.
So the following people have liked our page on Facebook. I think last time I said Twitter for all the Facebook people. That was a mistake. But David Ellis, Frank Allen, and Shirley Gorman have all liked us on Facebook. Now, Mike, when you're reading the letters columns, it's going to take us a while to get to the 60s. But as we get into the later 60s, you will see several letters written by Shirley Gorman. She was a fan of these comics back in the day when she was in middle school.
So she can write in and tell us things that we don't know.
Right.
Because we weren't even born yet.
But she is my friend on Facebook. We enjoyed, liking each other's geeky contributions, and
she should write in and tell us. I mean, we can already tell by these newsletters or by these letter pages, but write in and tell us what the climate was like between DC and Marvel during all this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what was it like?
Or what, from her perspective, not necessarily historically accurate, but like, what did she think of DC and Marvel?
Right, and that relationship there. Because I think she wrote into both. I think she read both.
Yeah.
And over on the Twitters, you can follow us there. And unearthlyvisions.blogspot.com is a blog about the Vision. And they have followed us on the Twitter. So cool. You can look up Unearthly Visions, or I am Grant Richter. So thank you, Grant, for following us there. And I guess, until Namor the Submariner has a crossover with Aquaman,
make ours Marvel.